The Todd Shapiro Show.
Time to hit the button!
On Canada Talks, SiriusXM 167. Stock Jocks with Genevieve Roch-Decter.
All right, Genevieve Roch-Decter, Grit Capital. How are you?
I'm great, Todd. What's happening?
Oh, I'm just chilling in this frigid weather. Mother Nature played an April Fool's joke on us today, but what can you do?
Yeah, I was down in New York last week, and it was actually like 10 degrees warmer. People are happier. It just is like a way better setup down there.
Yeah. No, are people happier with the markets? How are the markets doing?
I don't know. I saw a lot of Patagonia vests, hedge fund managers. Like, it's an epidemic down there. I've been following this Instagram account called Midtown Uniform.
Hang on, Midtown Uniform?
Yeah, it's called Midtown Uniform. And they basically post about finance guys and hedge fund managers and these Patagonia vests they wear. And I find it kind of funny. But when I was down in New York and I was in the middle of it, it was disturbing, actually, how many vests were around. I did not find it cool at all. And I even saw a Patagonia contest, and they were giving away a Patagonia vest in the lobby of one of these hedge funds that I went and visited. So it's a bit of an epidemic down there. Problem has not migrated north because I don't think a Patagonia vest will keep anyone warm here in Toronto.
No, and quite frankly, I'm a Canada Goose guy all the way. So screw Patagonia.
Yeah, but no, like the guys down the guys and the girls down in New York are excited for cannabis stocks. They're excited to invest, and despite me having to basically, get in over the border and sneak in. Once I was down there, I was more than happy to talk about cannabis all day long and bring these guys and girls deals that we are currently marketing.
Do you guys market? Do you guys work with Ianthus?
Yeah, we work with Ianthus, and we actually just announced a new client consortium, which is the latest multi-state operator to go public in Canada on the Canadian Stock Exchange, or Securities Exchange, I should say, or the Cannabis Securities Exchange is the other name for it, which I learned last week in New York.
See. I ask about Ianthus because, full disclosure, and I don't work with them or anything, but I'm just an investor. And there's what I want to take you before we get to a couple of the topics today in terms of hot sector of the week and stuff is just what that's like, because tonight Ianthus has an earnings call. For a quarterly earnings report. And what is that like for the average investor? What do they need to know about investing in companies across the spectrum? I don't care who we are, but that night or day leading, the few days leading up to it, is that a riskier time to invest in stocks generally?
Well, right now, specifically in the cannabis sector, because we've just seen Canadian cannabis companies report in the last week. I think there's been 3. Tilray and Kronos and I think Canatrust. And those results have been disappointing, to say the least. Like, stocks have traded off. Right now, across the entire cannabis space, and I could be talking about any sector, but when a sector is in a show-me state, meaning we are laser-focused on what the revenues are going to be, what the earnings are going to be, the first to report usually sets the tone for the rest of the group. So in the case of, Canadian cannabis, I think it was Kronos that reported first. They reported a pretty big loss. And, the market was disappointed, took that stock down almost, I think, over 10%, down like 20% in the quarter. So, or in the month, sorry. And so, I think investors just have to know that sometimes you're going to get kind of like a washout where the sector is going to trade off, and then it may rebound over the quarter. After the results come out. But what I would say to investors is anytime you're invested in a company, try and pay attention to like 3 things that matter, like 3 KPIs is what I call them, 3 key performance indicators. And usually it's as easy as just revenue, EBITDA, and margins, because those are kind of important, and like what the growth is quarter over quarter and year over year. But I wouldn't necessarily recommend new investors to be listening to earnings calls, because it could be quite detailed. And that's not really something they should be getting into. In my opinion, that's something like their professional financial advisors should be doing.
Yep. No, well said. Obviously, how financial advisors do due diligence. I just think it's interesting to what that's like for investors on the, when they're waiting for that earnings report. And by the way, I think there was a cannabis company that did well in on the CSE, Curaleaf. I don't think they had the greatest earnings, but their stock went up significantly last week. So you never really know anyway. It's such an interesting space. So let's move on with Genevieve Roch-Decter of Grit Capital and start off with our hot sector or the stock of the week.
Hot stock sector of the week.
No surprise, U.S. cannabis over Canadian cannabis is hot right now. Cresco Labs this morning, CL on the CSC, which is a $3.2 billion company, announced they are acquiring Origin House, which is also listed on the CSC, about almost $800 million market cap. Together, the combination of these two companies will be one of the largest vertically integrated multi-state cannabis operators in the United States, and it is the largest ever public company acquisition in U.S. cannabis history. Quite a mouthful. So this is a major deal. And this fits in very well to what I have actually been saying for the last sort of 12 months, 18 months, is that I thought eventually you're going to start seeing these major U.S. deals start to happen because scale is everything in the name of the game of cannabis, right? So it's this deal is going to be 23 facilities across 11 states. They're going to be in 750 dispensaries, like their products are going to be. They themselves will own over 70 dispensaries, 1.5 million square feet of cultivation. It's a big deal, and I think you're going to start to see more of these, and I think you're going to start to see more of the capital that have been in Canadian cannabis names, like the Kronos, like the Tilrays, all that stuff, like the Canopy, start to migrate to the U.S. names because they're actually comparatively, on a relative basis, cheaper from a valuation standpoint, generally speaking. So you're going to see that, and I just think the scale of the market, like the U.S. is 10 times bigger. Like California alone is the size of Canada, right? So like the Canadian marketplace is going to be somewhere in the ballpark of 5 to 10 billion in market size. That's like what California is going to be, just one state. So I think it's a bigger game down there, and you're going to start seeing bigger deals, and the investment banks are going to start financing these deals, and there's just going to be more capital. And the bank accounts are starting to open up. There's some regulatory changes that are going to happen that are going to allow more of the U.S. cannabis companies to have actual real bank accounts. So it's just sizzling south of the border.
Let's move on with Genevieve Roch-Decter from Grit Capital for the finance term of the week.
Finance term of the week.
My favorite segment, by the way.
All right. Do you know what a break fee is?
Yeah, see, I don't. Like every time a break fee, it sounds like I hired a hitman to go and like kick some guy's ass who owes me money because he didn't do my HVAC over at my cottage, which is a true story.
Oh my God.
So I paid the guy a break fee. You know what I'm saying? I said, hey, I'm going to give you a break fee. Don't break his legs. You get a fee.
It actually is. In the corporate world, it is essentially that. So like two companies do a deal, and the one company's like, don't mess around with me. If you don't actually acquire me, I'm going to break your legs. Well, I'll break your bank account, and you're going to have to pay me a lot of money. So in the deal that I was just talking about, the Cresco Labs deal in Origin House, the break fee on that is $45 million. So basically, if Cresco Labs does not acquire Origin House, they're going to have to pay them $45 million cash. So the reason that's important is whenever you see an acquisition like this and you want to know how likely it is that it will actually go through, because if you own stock, it's important. Like, if your stock went up because an acquisition was announced and you were wondering if you should hold that stock through to the deal being finalized, well, look at the break fee. If the break fee is like $100,000, well, the likelihood is probably not that high. But if it's $45 million, that's real money, and you can bet that it'll probably go through because you're not going to want to pay $45 million for no reason.
I actually love that. I love that term, and I think they should have break fees in any sort of. The thing is, I don't want to waste people's money or time, and I want to break. They should have that even on like Tinder. Like you go meet if you go someone on Tinder, it's like you got to wire me $20 for the Uber. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, exactly. If your photo, if you don't pan out, like if the photo doesn't pan out, and like false advertising, or
there's a break fee if you used a photo from 2008. Okay, like we're in 2019.
Or a criminal record, or anything like that. You'd be like, false advertising, you're a psycho, my life was in danger, break fee.
Yeah, we need break fees in all aspects of life. That makes so much sense. Like, even if, honest to God, even if I'm going to my mom's house, like, all right, Mom, if all you're gonna do is talk about things I don't want to talk about, I get $80. Come on. It didn't pan out the way I thought the deal was gonna happen today. No, I love my mom very much. Genevieve Roch-Decter hanging out with us. Okay, let's go with the break fee. That's like honestly unbelievable. Let's. How's it? Do we need a break fee for these interviews?
Maybe. If we don't get more followers on Instagram, people don't add us to Instagram, we might have to have a break fee here.
At Grit Capital. Go and get them. At Grit Capital. One of the greatest finance Instagrams you're ever going to see, making finance fun. Okay, let's move on to the stat of the week.
Stat of the week.
This is an incredible esports stat that I just read in a report. Okay, so it took the airline industry 64 years to get to 50 million passengers or users or whatever you want to call them. It took Fortnite only 4 months, and the newest game out there, Apex Legends, took only 1 month. So why this is fascinating to me is that the velocity of everything, so not just esports, but the velocity of everything, technology, adoption, virality, the economy, everything is just speeding up. And, it's never been such a time in history where a product, a game, anything can just become viral and popular and, gangbusters overnight. And so I just think this is something we all need to be kind of applying in our businesses, maybe not our personal lives. I don't know how that applies to personal life, but it's just amazing. And actually ourselves and a few investment banks are going to be hosting a big esports event on April 24th. So follow us on Instagram. You can come out to the event, and we're going to be talking about all this and how big it's gotten and all the deals that are happening and all the companies that are private that are about to go public. Like, there's a really big esports deal that's about to go public called Aquilini Games. It's a Canaccord deal. It's about to go public, and that will really set the tone, like we were talking about earlier about earnings season. Well, when a new sector has a major deal going public, it kind of sets the tone for the entire sector for the next little while. So I think everybody should be paying attention to this.
Genevieve Roch-Decter, that's good to know. What is that? So when you say there's a deal about to go public, the Aquilini deal, and I think Aquilini, of course, being one of the owners or the main owner of the Vancouver Canucks.
Yeah.
Is that something that people can get in on? Is it too late? Is it closed? When you say that, people get excited, but can they do anything about it?
Well, right now they can't. So the only way they would have been able to get in on it would have been if they had an account with a retail broker at Canaccord. And might have been a few other dealers in there. I'm not sure. Don't quote me on that. But it will be a reverse takeover on the Toronto or on the Venture Exchange. So once it goes public, people can buy stock. I don't know what the ticker is going to be. I don't know that it's been announced. But do your due diligence. Obviously, I am not recommending this stock. I'm just saying watch it to see how well the esports sector does, because this will be a barometer stock for that sector.
Yeah, no, listen, we're not telling anyone ever to buy anything, by the way. We're just talking about companies. We're talking about sectors in general. And yeah, you may work for some companies, but everyone always has to go and go, and they hit buy and they hit send, and it's not stock advice. Speak to people who are much more experienced, but we can talk about certain companies. Well, good job, Genevieve Roch-Decter. Hopefully, we get you in studio. It's always more exciting. It's like, you're right around the corner.
Well, it's like a few blocks, and it's like, it's still like the death of winter right now.
You used to be on BNN. You never called those in. You always came in.
But the problem with that is like, because it's TV, so I had to show up, I had to put makeup on and all that. Like right now, I'm literally sitting in my Nike sweats and just ordered Uber Eats, and I'm going to be doing some more research tonight because I got work to do, because Grit Capital never sleeps.
Good stuff. So, well, I'm also in sweatpants. And
Are you wearing your inside sweatpants or outside sweatpants?
I'm wearing my outside sweatpants. Hey, why did you just start following me now on Instagram? I don't understand.
Because my social media, I have a team that runs my social media, and for some reason, they unfollowed a whole whack of people. And now every time I re-add people, and they did it without discrimination, it was undiscriminatory. And people are pissed off, and now I'm having to re-add people, and this is causing some grief. So it's not because I don't love you. Obviously, we're pals. It's just that modern technology is taking a little bit of time here for me to adapt to.
All right, fine. I was really hurt. But great advice this week. Thanks for letting us know what the stock of the week, finance term of the week, and stat of the week was. Grit Capital, given a follow. Great partners there, Nicole and Genevieve Roch-Decter, and we always appreciate your time. Have a good night.
All right.
Cheers.
See you later.
Okay.
This is the Todd Shapiro Show on Canada Talks, SiriusXM 167.